Dear employees, the training manual is now complete. You are now expected to know every last detail of your training. Let's do one final review together and I will comment on the various points of material covered in the manual. I will cover the 3 major stages of the game, each ending with a Stargate. The Classic Stargate. The start of the game up to the Classic Stargate is definitely the most active and I think the most fun part of the mod pack. You start off with the usual skyblock stuff, and there is, optionally, Create. If you don't like Create, you don't have to engage with it. This is my first experience with Create, and I found it pretty fun. I think the recipes could use some Gregification, but I found the general design philosophy pretty nice. Create is optional, but optimal. That said, the main progression of the entire mod pack is of course GregTech, and once you get to around LV or maybe MV, the Create machines are basically obsolete. I think this is fine. Some more uses of Create up to around HV would be nice, but it doesn't thematically really make sense, so I'm kind of indifferent about that. Applied Energistics is unlocked in MV, but you have other storage and logistics options available before that with TOMS, Laser IO, and more. GT progression is mostly straightforward up to the Classic Stargate, with lots of fun custom additions. There are new multi-blocks for resource generation, custom superconductors, and plenty of processing lines. The resource generation and processing lines are fun and appropriately complex without being too much. There are also custom machine mechanics, such as throughput boosting, coil bonuses on chem reactors, and more. The craft for the Classic Stargate requires you to solve an automation challenge called Layered Inputs, where inputs need to be provided in steps. The Stargate craft is expensive, but appropriately so. The Ancient Stargate. After the Classic Stargate, you unlock a new dimension, Abydos. It's a desert dimension with some structures, and you need to explore to find items to progress. Unlocking new dimensions typically also unlocks new alternate resource generation or processing methods for your existing infrastructure, which is good. I think that's really good design. Abydos was pretty nice, and we see an interesting new processing line in Bacteria. The exploration is not too bad, and there are even some nice recipes to convert the items you find into other items as a form of bad luck mitigation. With Abydos, you also get access to new materials. These materials require more complex processing lines and are a step up in difficulty. I found them to be a bit slow and power hungry, but that might just be a skill issue on my part at the time for not scaling my infrastructure enough. Overall, pretty good. I enjoyed these processing lines and the progression to the Ancient Stargate. You do need nuclear reactors to progress, which sounds cool, but they are a bit boring in this version. I believe the plan is for them to be reworked in upcoming versions, so I won't complain too much, but for now they scale poorly and can be a bit frustrating in how much you need to wait or scale. The Ancient Stargate is more of the same, no new automation challenges, which is unfortunate. I think this would be a good place to introduce a new automation challenge in future versions. The Draconic Stargate. The Draconic Stargate is the end of the pack, and I think it is mostly appropriately expensive besides the Hellforge, which I'll get to. After obtaining the Ancient Stargate, you unlock the Nether. The Nether processing lines are complex, which is good, but rely a bit too heavily on layered inputs. Using another automation challenge would be preferable in my opinion, or a mix. The Nether requires some exploration, and we unlock the Hellforge. I have very mixed opinions about the Hellforge. On one hand, it has a new automation challenge. Nice. On the other hand, every recipe is very slow and the fuel required for its operation is also very slow to make. You really need to do what feels like an excessive amount of machine spam and power generation to keep up with your needs, and this problem only gets worse until the end of the game. At least for now. There are some unimplemented fuels noted in the quest book, which I think would really help alleviate the issue a lot once they are implemented. The Ancient Stargate also grants you access to the End. The End processing lines are very cool. New multi-block with new automation challenge, alleviates the nuclear reactor reliance, new draconic processing lines, super cool. This is definitely the part of the pack with the best theming. However, there are a lot of multi-blocks that are unlocked in this UHV to UIV era, and I think there are too many, especially because a lot of them are just dumb multi-blocks. What I mean by that is they are multi-blocks with no special mechanics. You just put items in and you get items out, which I think doesn't really have a place at this stage of the game. Also, around this point, Fusion and Hellforge are too heavily relied on and you have to spam quite a bit, especially the Hellforge. By the end of the game, or even before that, It really feels like the Hellforge is the only bottleneck in the entire game. I didn't feel the need to scale anything else, because I was just locked behind the Hellforge. You do get a better Hellforge near the end of the game, which I think is far too late for it to feel useful. I didn't even make one. I decided to just leave the game running for a few days instead. The particle physics multi-blocks are cool as well, but I think they appear too late in the game and have too few uses. They should also require automation challenges, instead of just needing to spam dozens of HPCAs for a reasonable processing time. That said, the Komaru is very cool. Awesome multi-block, great automation challenge. I think it needs to have more uses, but it has a lot of potential for future versions and is definitely the coolest looking multi-block in the entire game. Building it by hand was a blast. Overall, Star T was an enjoyable pack. These are my main takeaways. The Stargates being dimension unlockers is a great idea, and the dimensions are cool. Layered automation is challenging, but a bit overused. The Hellforge needs a lot of buffs, but the automation challenge is good. The late game recipes need more interesting multi-blocks to go with them instead of just a reskinned version of the multi-block you already have, but with throughput boosting and bulk processing. That said, the multi-block designs are all awesome. Ultimately, I do recommend playing Star T, and I would give it a score of 8 out of 10. I expect you all to finish your training and get back to work. Regards, HamCorp CEO.